Welcome to Down the Rabbit Hole on Wolf Spirit Radio. Thursdays 1 till 3 Pacific. Join us as we explore the expression of quantum light language unfolding in this galactic paradigm. We offer our perspective and understanding of our true destiny of humanity. We are here to take a journey, activating these light codes offered by the collective universe in this 0 point of the time-space continuum, manifesting as our core essence of light and love. So welcome both galactics and humanity as one expression of divine love and unity consciousness. You're listening to Wolf Spirit Radio. On you go.
Well, hello everyone. This is the Viking for another, our third session of the Down the Rabbit Hole, a galactic perspective. I'm joined today with my co-host, Chloe Hudson. How are you?
I'm excellent, Viking. Thank you. How are you?
Good. I've just been barraged with a whole bunch of farm animals. I got two miniature goats, 2 pot-bellied pigs, and 30 chickens, and 1 rabbit. So my farm is growing.
That sounds awesome. Are they the like jumping goats?
Yeah.
Do all goats do that?
Yeah, they all jump. There are fainting goats. I know some goats faint, but these, right. Yeah. No, these are definitely. Fun. Yeah, I got a mother and a daughter. She's really cute. Like I just ordered 10,000 pounds of spoiled hay to bed down my garden, getting ready for spring. Sent my seeds to the nursery. I have a local nursery sprout my heirloom seeds, and they'll be ready by April 1st. They're going to sprout them Monday, which is a Scorpio moon, and the full moon. So that's it's a water sign. So it's good to plant your seeds in a water sign. These are all above ground crops, my peppers and tomatoes, and yeah. So I'm in full tilt boogie here.
That's great. I love it. I was just thinking about moving into a new space actually today, and there's enough area for a garden, though I know there's a local raccoon, so I'm trying to figure out how to train him not to rip all my clothes off the line and dig up my garden. But we'll see. Soon to come.
So Keith, how are you, sir?
I'm doing good.
I can't hear you.
I said I'm doing very well.
There we go. Well, thank you for joining us. And again, JP, thank you for hosting this. And we have Conrad in the wings. Conrad, how are you?
You have to run to the mute button.
Yeah, I'm good. My mute button is sticky. I'm doing fine here. It's just a beautiful, lovely day in southeast Texas, and not really up to planting the gardens yet, but getting a lot of stuff that I can't do when I don't have days off. So it's really blissful to have a day off with nice weather.
Conrad, what town do you live in?
I'm in Port Arthur, Texas, where the entire town was flooded up to their navels. So we're fixing houses, which is quite a shift from sitting on the couch retired for a number of years to leaping off to full tilt working, 8 to 5 on all these houses. And it's great, you stay in lots of shape because you're always moving, you never stop.
That's wonderful. Yeah, I'm from Flower Mound, Texas.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, more northeast.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'm kind of looking at San Angelo, thinking about moving up that direction. It's a little higher up than, and less likely to flood. And there's distressed farms, like, half-acre farms you can get for very little money the houses are in deplorable condition, but then if you're a builder, that really doesn't matter.
Right.
You know, because all the utilities are in and roads are in, and you just pull in your trailer, move in your trailer, and then, you know, eventually move out of your 20-foot trailer into a house after you fix it up.
That sounds wonderful.
Yeah. So that's kind of the plan I'm working towards.
Excellent. Well, thank you for joining us.
So Chloe, why don't we start off with a little grounding meditation, if we can, and kind of set the mood, so to say.
Sure. So since today is the full moon in Virgo, and we also have a slew of planets in Pisces, I'm just going to acknowledge that as a bit of the foundation for the grounding today. And if you just take a few minutes and breathe into your body and become aware of your body from the inside. So just imagine what it's like to feel your skin suit, if you will, from the inside. And then intend to pull your auric sphere in really tight all the way around your body. And on a deep exhale, just bounce that auric sphere out, whatever's appropriate for you. Maybe it's 20 feet, maybe you want to go 80 feet, whatever you feel intuitively drawn to. And then imagining you're going to connect a giant grounding cord, a hollow tube, to the outside of your auric sphere at sex chakra level. And that's going to be made of amethyst and citrine. If you're drawn to another frequency, go ahead and use that coloring. And ground that all the way down specifically into your personal pyramid of light. So imagining in the center of Earth you have a holographic pyramid of light, and it's very individual to your soul essence. And then imagining connecting that amethyst and citrine frequency into the generator crystal inside your personal pyramid of light. And take a moment and reach out to your etheric aspect. And just tune into that. Maybe say your name inside your mind. And then expand your awareness out and notice that your personal pyramid of light is sitting inside a giant amethyst and citrine crystal cluster inside of Earth Mother's belly. We're going to call on the High Council of the Crystalline Beings, calling in the High Council of the Lemurians, calling in Mother Father Earth, which I call Gaia, Chaitanya, Gondolos, Gondanam, calling on the Devas, the Fire Salamanders, the Earth Gnomes, the Water Undines, the Air Sieves, calling on the World Server Pyramid and offering a healing to that if we get access, calling on the higher human consciousness, higher animal kingdom, higher plant kingdom, higher tree kingdom, and pulling up this beautiful amethyst and citrine, flooding up your grounding cord. The Lemurians are going to activate your Earth Star chakra on the way up. That sits about a foot below your root chakra. So just flushing that out, taking a moment, imagining that energy is going to kind of fountain back down, and then bringing the energy up into your feet, filling your legs, flushing into your root chakra, dumping that back down, and grounding any minor grounding cords wherever you feel intuitively drawn to do that. So there's some extra assistance in maybe clearing out some old stagnant energy. Running the energy up into your sex chakra, flushing that out, taking a moment and grounding down your gonads, whether you're male or female, flushing out your creative stagnant energy or maybe any martyr sexual energy, bringing your awareness into your diaphragm and activating your diaphragm chakra and or bringing it online if you're not aware of it. So just breathing into your diaphragm. And that diaphragm chakra is going to sit in between your solar plexus and your sex chakra. And as you breathe, just imagine that your breath is going to be infused with that amethyst and citrine, and you're going to deliver that frequency into your bloodstream and all of the oxygen in your body. Flooding your low back, your belly button, grounding out your belly button, bring the energy into your solar plexus, and acknowledging any issues you may have going on with your stomach, whether it's like nervousness or indigestion energy or maybe overindulgence with this full moon. Bring the energy up into your spine, activating your thymus chakra below your heart, coming into your higher heart, flushing out your higher heart, filling your shoulders, your arms, running it out to your hands, coming into your throat chakra. And go ahead and put like a slide. I think of it as the slide that comes out of the concrete machine when they're laying concrete, and just let some energy start to roll out of your throat. I feel like a lot of us have some stifled, unspoken words right now. Bringing the energy into your pineal, pituitary, thalamus, hypothalamus, grounding down from your well of dreams, which is a chakra at the base of your occiput, the base of your skull, activating your well of dreams to assist your higher heart intelligence to come online and your higher mind to surrender to your heart. Grounding out your crown chakra, flushing that out, anchoring another giant grounding cord. This one's going to be gold and emerald I'm seeing right now, as wide as your auric sphere, and anchoring that at heart chakra level, running it all the way up into the galactic central sun of Alcyone, which is a solar being sitting in the center of our galaxy. Anchoring that into the solar core, calling on the high council of the solar beings, activating Helios and Vesta, the solar logos, calling on Archangel Michael's solar ring, calling in the twin pillars of light, calling in Lady Moonbeam energy and the Venusians, asking that your soul star chakra be activated on the way down and flooding your upper grounding cord with this beautiful solar frequency. And it's going to also have the electronic ring and the twin pillars of light come down. And it runs down like honey. It's kind of got some weight to it, so it coats you. It's going to come into your soul star chakra, which is about a foot above your head, flushing that out, opening it up, and maybe asking the Arcturian medical team to overlight you at this time and assist in removing any interference that we may be receiving around our soul star chakra. Calling on your twin flame blueprints and or your chakras if you're ready to bring those online. These are two new chakras that spin kind of like a halo. There's two of them, masculine, feminine, and they're being activated when you hit a certain sub-level of your ascension process, and they're assisting and balancing the yin-yang energy in our being. Now bringing the energy down into your crown chakra. And then just allow it to coat you, fill you up like honey. It's got some weight, so it's going to drip into your pineal, pituitary, thalamus, hypothalamus, well of dreams, filling your face, your throat, running out that slide in your throat. Fill your arms and your shoulders, your higher heart, into your thymus chakra, filling solar plexus in your back body, into your diaphragm chakra, your sex chakra, coating your gonads, running down those grounding cords, coming into your root chakra, filling your bum and your thighs, your legs, down your feet, anchoring into Earth Star chakra, and saying a hello to Earth, Mother, Father. And then we're just going to call in an acknowledgement for the full moon in Virgo and thank Lady Moonbeam for the assistance and ask for help to synthesize and synchronize to the gifts being given right now so that we can process this energy in an optimal and optimistic way, and maybe allowing the shadow energies that are coming up just to be gently revealed and flushed out, and sending love out to the full moon and thanks for the abundance and the harvest time we're having, calling in your higher self and all of the guides, the ascended masters, all saints in heaven, the archangels and the archaea, and any other loving, benevolent beings who'd like to assist. Thanking all that is. Blessed be, and so it is. Thy will be done. Amen. Okay.
So before we go any further here, I just wanted to say that any and all information brought in today is and will be channeled into the conscious grid of humanity. So, yeah, that was beautiful. Thank you, Chloe.
Thank you.
So, you say there's a lot of planets in Pisces. Is this true?
Yeah. Yes, so, what I've read about is the Sun, Neptune, Mercury, Venus, and Chiron. And I'm laughing at it because Pisces is a very emotional sign. So I think a lot of emotions are on high right now for people.
Yeah, I was just gonna share that this is, it is a water sign. It shares the water signs with Scorpio and Cancer. And of the three, Pisces is the most sensitive and the most emotionally connected, but it's also has the reign of that sensitivity needs to be kept in check because they also have the highest addictive personality on the planet due to the fact that it's kind of self-medicating any of the challenges that come about in the sign of Pisces. So this is a time to really check in with your addictive behaviors and your unconscious entanglements. You know, this is on high alert.
High alert. Well, it's kind of, I just had an instant manifestation because as we're talking about Pisces as a water sign, the cat just knocked over a huge glass of water and it went everywhere. I was like, oh, that was pretty instant. So yes, it is interesting you're talking about the addictions because I read that also is that, you know, not only emotionally are we going to be maybe overwhelmed, possibly just overly sensitive. And also, you know, if you do have your addictions or maybe overindulgences, you might get triggered and have to assist yourself a little bit more than normal to keep a balance around that. And I did write down what these, you know, energetically, emotionally, since Pisces is in these planets. So the sun's going to represent your individual consciousness. And Neptune represents longing to merge with something larger than self. So if that gets triggered, I kind of think about that, you know, when we have a longing to like belong to, for a bigger sense of purpose in the all that is. I think a lot of spiritual people can relate to that where we just really maybe have a desire, but in a kind of a long, like a forlorn way to be more helpful and assist mass consciousness. And then Mercury, as most people know, represents our mind and how we rationally observe what's happening around us in our communication. Venus relates to others, not only just connections through love and romance, but also just how we connect with other people. And then Chiron, of course, as most people know it, is the wounded healer, but it also represents what's going on in our DNA. And not only our wounds, but our wounds often should be, well, I shouldn't say should though, our wounds can easily be transmuted into gifts and lessons learned. So I thought it was interesting. I never really registered Chiron as a representative of our DNA. So I really appreciate seeing Chiron in a higher, more transcendent light, because I've definitely related to that as the wounded healer.
But it sounds on all fronts, you know, the conscious being, the mind, you know, relationship to others. And the fact that it's in Pisces tells me that, yes, there is an expansion here, but it's also going to dredge up unresolved emotional issues in relationship. You know, first of all, your primary relationship is with yourself. And then as we share our expression with others in relationship, you know, we gain a sense of self and an opportunity to truly explore our inner dimensions, as these relationships will then bring up reflection. So this is the time within these relationships you have with other people, be it spouses or siblings or friends or coworkers. If there's any unresolved issues, they will flare at this time. And this is the time to really take care of these old issues, so we can let go and purify our conscious mind. And then it basically will, you know, release our subconscious, unconscious tendencies that tend to control and manifest these dysfunctional relationships that we tend to hold on to. So an excellent opportunity to clear house or at least make amends.
Mhm. Yeah, I was I'm definitely relating to that right now, because I've been noticing some issues that I'm aware of that I've dealt with in the past coming up, though this time I feel, because I'm more gentle in my process, I get to frame them in a much different perspective. And as I've kind of walked around it and observed it, and of course had my moment of reaction, though I think I did well as to not overreact or move into anger or anything, which I have in the past. But also registering that as I'm kind of allowing myself to process and be open to my guides bringing in new lessons around it, that I've received a whole different style of insight around this trigger and kind of this emotional issue, which I thought was really beautiful because it's something I've worked on several times, and just to receive it in a whole new perspective, in a whole new way, I feel very grateful for that. And I was reading that we're also going to be revealing truth to ourselves around things that we haven't wanted to expose or allow, it to kind of hit our reality. So I find that pretty profound because I think we are our own masters of manipulation on our own beings. And, that manipulation doesn't have to have a negative connotation. We manipulate a pen when we use it. Though I personally love revealing truths to myself and kind of being a detective in those mysteries, and even if it is kind of a pain pocket or maybe embarrassing or, those shadow emotions come up around it. So I find that very exciting, though I know that it can be quite overwhelming for people to see things come up inside them that they hadn't ever looked at or weren't necessarily consciously aware were there. So if that's happening for anybody, I just like to invite you to maybe just think about, it's actually always been there. Now you're just kind of putting awareness and words to it. So even though you may have to go through a process with it, it's really not something new on your plate. You've been dealing with it on some level. And now you have the opportunity to really just clear it once and for all. So I find that really a beautiful process, though it can be challenging.
This is very true. What's before us right now, not only astrologically, but galactically, we are being infused with amazing, photonic and magnetic waves, which are activating these dormant, conscious awareness, which is a new format. It's a new format to negotiate life. It's brand new. It's not brand new. It's brand new to us because we're waking up. Mm-hmm. It's actually our true state of being, where, as Chloe was pointing out, as we enter into our daily lives, the scenarios are going to invoke certain situations which are going to reflect these unresolved issues of, let's say, anger, for example, because I've gotten into a couple of situations in the past 6 months where I've had two entities enter into my sphere and in a very nefarious and diabolical way, just yelling and screaming. And I partially engaged. And I realized that these situations were there to show me that I still had an entanglement. I was still entangled. Both entities were possessed. They were possessed beings. As I mentioned on prior shows, anytime you get a traumatic situation or drug addiction or alcoholism, and you open up your auric field that creates a hole where different entities can enter your body. And this is what causes split personalities. These split personalities are actually demons and entities. And there could be as much as 7, 10, 12, 20 these just dark entities that just pervade the personality. Well, I have two that engaged me. And both times, I was kind of observing it, but I still got reactive. Well, this is an excellent opportunity, especially on this just absolutely dark pool of just matter, this dark matter that they were holding, that they were possessed with, was challenging my light. And coming out of it, I didn't do so well, but the aftermath was, I understood that I entangled. I still went there, but what went there was the anger I was holding on to. And now, but both those experiences given me an insight Where now, if that happened, I would just say, you're having a bad day, and I'm not going to engage, and I walk away, or I just don't go there. You just don't go there. So it's a new platform, and what's being heralded in the scuttlebutt on YouTube with all these channelers is we need to really start to hold on to our sacred space and not allow these energies to invade us, because they bring us down to a lower vibration and they feed upon it. They actually feed upon this energy. They entangle you because they know you can be entangled. And so what is being asked of us is to become aware, as Chloe's pointing out, just become aware of the situation. You know, we have alternatives, and just not go there, and disentangle, find forgiveness, non-judgment, and surrender to the situation. You can't help them. They're more apt to pull you in. You pull them out. Give them their space and claim your space and move on quickly. Because we need to be available. We need to be on point here as we move into this new transition. We need to be on point with all of our relationships. So they are holding a higher space. So we can engage in synchronicity. We can engage in synchronicity and a unity on this planet. And you can't engage if you're holding on to this anger or this judgment or this pain and suffering. It is a time of surrender, but through compassion. You know, you're forgiving yourself, you're forgiving your actions. You don't have to forgive them for their actions, but you can forgive them for who they are, because we're all suffering and they're just doing the best they can, but you don't have to go there. You know, just draw a line, as I often say, move on quickly, because you can get lost in this entanglement and this dysfunction for years trying to change them. You can't change anybody. You can only assist and share who you are with like energies. So, you know, especially again in the time of Pisces, this is going to be optimum opportunity to expose these elements that are holding you back.
Yeah, I think that's interesting what you're talking about around how you were triggered with anger with these entities. And it reminded me of what one of the guides was talking about once, of, I think it was Yeshua. And he was channeling and saying that in regard to especially like maybe entities that, whether or not it be a physical interaction where you register you're connecting with an entity that's hosting on a human, or it be maybe an entity that's messing with you etherically, maybe in dream space or something like that. Though he was saying, you know, it's easy to, and I'm totally paraphrasing, he said it's easy to create a big fear body around entities, especially when you can't physically see them, right? Because then you use your imagination, and it's so easy to make a monster out of a molehill. And he's saying they're just lost souls. So really, in a way, it might be easier to pity them because they have to get loud, you know, and make a ruckus. And they also feed on your fear. And so while a lot of us register that fear is kind of the root cause of all of these shadow energies. So when we activate anger, you know, that's like a defense of fear, though nevertheless, I would say from experience that if you're coming into confrontation with entities and it scares you, whether they be your own entities or others, it is more efficient, in my experience, to activate that anger over sheer panic or fear. Because they will, either way, they're going to kind of be able to get your goat, obviously, because you're reacting. Though if you move into that very frightful stage, that's when they can really latch on. Now you've fragmented your auric sphere, and they're going to anchor and they're going to feed on that. Though the anger, there's still a sense of control and power in our anger, even if it's kind of, a three-dimensional version of that. And you can still have an amount of command and control in your space. And what reminds me of this is one time when I was living in Hawaii, I lived in a house that I never really tuned into the history of why it was haunted, though it was very clearly haunted. And I had a handful of friends who had come through and stayed with me throughout that year, and they all had a very odd experience. And one night, I remember I was lying there, and the entities were messing with me. And clairvoyantly, I could see the energy start to kind of like drip down the walls. And I had a split second where I registered fear wanting to come in. And I got so irate and I scream out something, like leave me alone or whatever it was. But I was angry. I was more livid than scared. And it clipped it immediately because I know that force or whatever it was trying to press into my fear body. But it just really made me mad because they're violating my space. And it did the job in that moment. So I just wanted to share that, because, and maybe I won't bring this up right now, but I've had some interesting conversations with people recently about more poltergeist type energies and the correlation of how they kind of do their haunting and hook in. Though I guess I wanted to just put that out there, Viking, because I know you're striving to be detached and not triggered by them, though kudos for you for moving into a fear space, an anger space instead of just a full-on fear space.
Well, in this situation, it was actually, I was being confronted. So in both these situations, anger probably would not have, it would have just added to the fire because that's where they wanted me to go. Mm-hmm. And in the future, as I said, I spent, a year and a half in therapy, based on, my adult alcoholic mother. And it was, basically based around children of alcoholics and having no boundaries. And having no boundaries as, that's what happens when you're a child of an alcoholic. I basically allowed all energies in. And so one of the techniques here is, is to acknowledge the fact that people do get angry or they do get judgmental or they do get fear-based around you. Just, acknowledgement. Acknowledge the fact that they're angry. Don't go there. Just acknowledge you're having a bad day. Acknowledge the fact that they're still working on their issues and you're here to support them, but you can't engage in that process of this negative tailspin where people just get caught up in just the ping pong of anger, or judgment, or, because these are all defense mechanisms that people, they're so full of trauma from past experience that this is their DNA encoding. And you wouldn't be with them if you didn't have a similar encoding. Because the universe brings us together in proper proportion in a relationship to expose our dark night of the soul. Mm-hmm. This is what relationship is about, because both people can heal if both people are willing to heal. But if you've got a partner that's still engaging and unwilling to see it, well then that's a dysfunctional relationship, because one half and one half never make a whole. Now, as far as the anger situation, I live in an 1886 Victorian farmhouse with enough stairs, a very, very narrow staircase that kind of makes a hard right at the top. And when I moved in, I felt this entity, as you were pointing out, this haunted spirit at the base of the stairs. Now, I believe I think there is an actual staircase entity in a lot of these old houses because people have fallen down and died. And I had one, and I actually had roommates that would come down the stairs and have their feet tripped, and they'd come tumbling down the stairs. This is like this is a nefarious entity. I was coming down late at night, and I was halfway down the stairs, and there it was. You know, I mean, I could sense it, and I basically just exploded. This is enough. I've had it. You know, I'm done. You got to get out of here. I puffed up. I puffed up my feathers and just said, this is intolerable, and you got to go. You know, I just showed them, you know, through this kind of force of anger, that this is no longer acceptable, and that spirit left. It was gone because it was exposed. It was exposed, and it only had power over you in an unconscious way. And so, yes, I agree. In that situation, you have to really find your power and source and be in that anger. But I don't usually like to use anger as a format, as we're trying to move into this new paradigm of this higher understanding and higher just sense of self. You know, you have to know how to negotiate and which format to choose. But I would say, for the most part, as you pointed out, this pity or compassion is by far the road that we need to start choosing, because it's through compassion and understanding that we understand that, yeah, they are suffering, but we don't have to engage in their suffering. Right.
Well, and you know what it reminds me since we're talking about anger, which is inevitable, you know, for humans. And I know we eventually get to a space where it probably doesn't activate much at all, though for the time being, I mean, it is very human of us. And I do remember hearing something about anger being simply a lack of understanding, which I really enjoy that, because again, it's not so much about activating those states, because we're just human. It's going to happen at some point or another, and it's whatever form or emotion is being expressed or feeling, though it's what we do with it, right? So, you know, I hear you expressing maybe some remorse or learning around reacting through the anger, because it can come up, though we don't have to allow it to control us. And so with some conscious, you know, awareness around it, in that moment of having anger and registering, okay, well, right now there's something that I'm ignorant to, and I can make a choice in that. I can choose to continue to navigate through this type of erratic ignorance, or I can allow myself to be in this place because I don't understand something, and know that soon I will, because at least I've taken enough initiative to register that even though something is alive in me, it's obviously not the whole truth of the situation. I'm not seeing something because I am kind of out of my own command right now. And I think that the practice of allowing ourselves for it to be okay that we get triggered is a huge mastery in its own right, because especially I think for people that are really striving for self-betterment, it can be very easy for us to forget that it's okay for us to feel that way. We're allowed to. It's what we do with it, right? And how we navigate through it. Because I view all of my emotions as an aspect. So when anger comes up in me, or fear, or whatever it is, sadness, if I try to immediately eradicate it without acknowledging it, you know, maybe this is in hindsight, right? Because I might just go there initially. But then when I'm, you know, looking back at the situation and really doing my analyzing and processing, I often register that aspect is its own being, and I just totally ignored it. I just basically told it, it is not okay that you're here. I do not accept you. And I would feel pretty crappy if somebody did that to me. So I'm constantly trying to remind myself, and it is a constant reminder, which in its own right amazes me, because I've been doing it for over a decade now. But I'm still always trying to remind myself wait, Chloe, if anger's here or sadness is here, they have something to say. So listen up. And then it dissolves, right? Though, it's okay for us to be human. And the more human we are, the more we get to anchor our soul into our humanity, which I think that this whole thing's about.
Well, this is very, very true. Acknowledgement does bring about awareness of the situation, and acknowledgement, as I said, does bring about purification, and it will dissolve. And as long as the way I see this is, as long as the anger is a conscious action, you're conscious about it. Because sometimes people can't hear you unless, they can only hear the anger. If you have to express yourself in a very strong way in order to get across, well then of course that's your tool of negotiation. You pull it out of your bag, you use it, and you put it back. As long as it's not a reactive form. Again, some people can't hear it. People, you have to say no, as I said before, because they will always say yes. So boundaries here are important, and if that's one of the tools you have to use to establish it, fine. But put it back in your toolkit, and don't let it rule your life.
Absolutely, I agree with that. And it doesn't mean that just because it comes up that you have to use it towards another person. It can be alive in you. It doesn't mean you have to take action around it. For me, a lot of people are different, but I'm Scorpio rising, so I'll get lit in a split second, and it'll be really intense, and it will go out just as quickly. So I've had to learn to just, okay, it's going right now. Take your time with this, and it'll be gone quick. And I'll never forget my dad used to say to me, and ironic, my dad's a Pisces, so he was very ultra sensitive. And, but he used to say, Chloe, something I really appreciate about you is when you get upset, you walk away and you don't come back until you've calmed down. And I really was amused when he would, because I wasn't aware I did that at that time when I was young. I was a kid when he told me that. But I just very much amused me that he noticed that, and he was just pleased as pie not to have to interact. So, it's all about what we do with it, I think.
So it's the all-feared, all-dreaded, vindictive scorpion sting, huh?
Right, the lashback.
Well, I also share Scorpio rising, so I completely understand that. They're either on your side or they're not, and when they're not, God help them.
Exactly. Well, one thing I want to say real quick that I heard that was interesting because I never knew this, and I've done a lot of clearings of entities in homes or haunted homes and all of that stuff, or attachments to land or whatnot. And so I was really pleased to hear this fact from one of the guys when they were talking about how poltergeists, they are inactive when the humans are not around. So that's kind of like, if a tree is falling and nobody's there, does it make a sound, right? Well, the guides were saying that what the poltergeists do, the only way they can anchor into the 3D reality is to tether through somebody's auric sphere and pull on their electromagnetic frequencies and then use their energetic frequencies to access our realm. So they're hanging around in our realm, but they can't really make an imprint, a physical imprint, unless they're drawing on somebody's electromagnetic frequencies. And only certain people are susceptible to being a host or an anchor, because you would need to have some kind of weak spot, tear, tether, fracture, whatever you want to call it, in your auric sphere. And most of us have something at some point like that, and we're usually not aware of it. And so often it can be a child, which is, I think, what we see a lot in movies, because their auras are so open. And so that gave me a real interesting insight about particularly stubborn poltergeists. in regard to when you're doing clearings around them or you're wanting to get them out of your space, figure out in addition not only why they're there and what's going on, because often they just need help and need to be heard, and then they can move on. But also, who are they tethering to? Who is their anchor point that they're using? They're sourcing that energy to actually haunt, or whatever you want to call it. And I thought that was really cool. Because which could also mean that, if you've got some really healthy, org spheres living in a domicile, maybe you have entities there, but you'll never know it because they can't really reach out. Not that it's bad to have entities in this space, but I thought that was an interesting way to look at it.
These are all the base elements of the 3D paradigm. They can only feed on energies that are in this lower vibration, which is where fear, anxiety, anger exists. These all exist in these lower vibratory frequencies, and so they have to invoke it. They invoke it in order to feed it. As you said, they prey on certain person or the people of that environment. So again, they could, they won't affect you, or you will not be affected if you maintain your presence of self, your higher awareness. Much like the cabal and the deep state, their nefarious activities only are effective if you go there. All these false flags and the subjugation is only reality if you buy into the illusion of the reality. It is about, again, maintaining your sense of self, your core essence, your core being, and using that as this new operating platform. As we start to awaken, we start to understand and truly see who we are. And when we start to realize, well, we're not these subjugated beings, and so in the situation of entities, we're not these lower vibrations. We can, acknowledge our higher presence, so they have nothing to feed on, and then you can do a clearing, or they'll just naturally go away, or they'll just go into dormancy. But it's about, right. And again, in relationships, if you're in this base reality of judgment and fear and anger, that's what's going to be tormented. And again, I believe everything's in divine order. Everything is designed, and every day the scenarios that we experience are there to show us these tendencies that no longer are working, that no longer are aiding or adding to the greater sense of our being, or the higher elements of our essence. Every day can be an opportunity to clear out these old fields if you're just operating from a platform of observation and detachment. This is very critical. Detachment and surrender. And again, you're not surrendering yourself, but you're surrendering the elements that are keeping you entangled.
Right. Well, something else that I read about the Virgo moon, the full moon in Virgo, is that it's bringing concrete results out of the ethereal. And so, which we refer to as like bring heaven on earth. So right now it's a really powerful time to bring about the physical manifestations anchoring in our reality of whatever's going on etherically. And it's also harvest time for that February 15 eclipse. So what a beautiful experience if you're revealing these truths about self and kind of uprooting maybe any issues you have in personal relationships. It's an opportune time to see that as a wonderful way to expand in tackling issues that are there anyway and they're going to come up again, and finding a way to move forward with really substantial tools to navigate and connect you more harmoniously. And I really liked hearing that, quite specific to Virgo is this ability to create results or manifest into full form out of what is energetic or etheric, or maybe just in mind thought. And it's also, as you're talking about deep state, with the new Chinese New Year we're having and the Year of the Dog for the next 2 years. And I went to this lovely talk, from a Chinese medicinal practitioner, and she was speaking on the Year of the Dog. And the themes that are going to come up for us this year, pardon the sirens in my background, but are, as a dog, you think about loyalty and honor. You think about packs. And also if you leave a dog uncared for, she was speaking about, well, they get very fierce and they can be very dangerous when they go into defense mode. So, and there's also a huge highlight on civil justice this year and truth prevailing, which I find very interesting because it will probably show a big year of people coming together for higher, more authentic ways of being and living, and holding our ground, and fighting for that, for truth and honor and loyalty to prevail. And she was also speaking about how we'll see a lot of truth being revealed and justice being served through the judicial systems, which is wonderful to hear. And it was also, she's speaking about the Year of the Dog also kind of represents medically our blood. So there can be a lot of medical issues coming up for people around blood and spleen, though it also means that medically there are going to be a lot of advancements around blood and a lot of technological advancements as well. So I thought that was just really cool because there's a big focus this year and next year on, finding your pack, assisting the civil spaces, and those who are being called intuitively to to be the spokespersons for these grassroots movements, to really step out and allow yourself to kind of fearlessly take that role. Because something she was saying, in a pack, not only are they band together to help each other, but everybody knows their role. So what's your role? Because the Virgo full moon is also very clearly highlighting your focus. Things in the recent past have been things are coming up, things are in our periphery, and now it's time for that timeline to really get honed in and overlit so you can be like, okay, I'm navigating this way. This is my main focus. So there's a huge invitation to utilize that energy for the Year of the Dog and figure out what's your role. And are you ready to step up and authentically, bring forth your service to others? And if you are one to be a spokesperson, are you willing to do that? Because it's really needed right now.
Well, yeah, that's, I'm not really versed in the Chinese New Year, but it's interesting how the themes that are being brought up are the themes that are really needing right now to heal humanity, and as far as your focus, it's really important. The way I was able to define my role in life was to really, expose the arenas that I didn't want through the behaviors of my family members and people that I befriended, and realizing that, I don't want to go there, that doesn't seem to be working. And by eliminating these tendencies and really seeing that this isn't going to work or this doesn't appeal to me, and letting go of these false timelines, the singularity of who you are will manifest. It's not so much trying to focus on who you are, but knowing what's not working, because that allows for a greater vista, a greater awareness by clearing out these old regimes, these old tendencies, these lineage programs that might have kept us locked into a certain destiny. that as we start to awaken, we realize, well, this isn't really who I am. Mm-hmm. So just establishing, an understanding of your personal growth, it will manifest and unfold daily. But really, the critical element here is establishing and acknowledging who you're not, and what's not working, and what's not fulfilling you, what's not serving you, what's not validating you, what's not nurturing you, what's not celebrating your existence. Again, celebration is worshiping, and celebration is just an acknowledgement of your higher passion, right? So acknowledging, the elements that are not feeding you, and validating your core essence is going to allow you to be able to choose wisely in moving forward. And it's not so much trying to figure it out. It will literally expose itself. It's in your DNA. It's in your ones and zeros. You have this beautiful expression that will then start to unfold. We're all unique. And it's critical to start to validate and understand your uniqueness that you can add to the betterment of humanity. But you have to find that foundation first. We're getting close to the top of the hour here. We got a couple minutes.
Well, I like that you're talking about the DNA and lineage, because another thing that I know this Virgo full moon represents is acknowledgement to our ancestors. So it's a good time to, hold that in your field, whether it be you communicating with your parents or reaching out to grandparents or going all the way back to the lineage. Though, what if you're brave? I just got inspired for a little challenge here, hearing you talk about lineage with this highlight of Chiron and Pisces. If we're brave and ready, we could definitely invite Chiron and our DNA and our lineage to assist us in revealing, since it's a time of revealment, what it is that we're still holding on to, that we are not aware of, that's anchoring us into those beliefs and habits that are keeping us from expansion and growth. And sometimes it's difficult to look at the DNA coding, though it's a perfect time for it.
Well, we're at the top of the hour. We're going to go into break. And where did the hour go? That just flew by. Okay, well, JP, thanks. You can take it away.
What a good choice. Thank you, JP.
Welcome. You're back.
So we're at the second hour here of the Down the Rabbit Hole, a Galactic Perspective. This is the Viking. Again, we're joined today with my co-host, Chloe Hudson. Keith Roberts is a feature producer, and of course, JP. Thank you for hosting this. So I want to speak a little bit. When at the top of the hour, I mentioned how quickly that hour went by. I mean, from my perspective, it was a few minutes. And last night I was making granola, and I set my timer for 5 minutes. And I swear to God, I did it 3 times, and I thought it was like 30 seconds apart. I thought something was wrong with my phone. The timer went off so quickly. It was like in my current perspective of time, it felt like 30 seconds. And so what's happening here? I don't know if any of you are experiencing a time distortion, but we are definitely in what is known as a time distortion. These magnetic waves that are coming in, and these photonic waves and gamma and beta waves from the central sun and from our sun and from just the galactic universe in general, is causing a compression. Okay, it's like if you take a ping pong ball and start paddling on the table and catch the ball and then lower the paddle, the ball will bounce faster and faster and faster. And this is what's happening to us right now. Time is compressing. And the result of this procedure or this anomaly is that our lives will tend to speed up. And one of the attributes is that these issues are going to be forced up into our lives because we can no longer hold on to these issues and move forward at the same time. We're awakening into these substratums of our own personal conditioning patterns that are going to be exposed if and when, and you have desire to move forward. You could stay in this tailspin, and that's fine. Not everybody's going to make it. Not everybody's going to wake up. But if you are waking up, this is what's happening. You're going to get into situations, the scenarios are going to unfold in your daily life that are going to expose the dark night of the soul. Because we need to see this. We need to find this closure in order to be able to, grab onto a higher element of our true existence, our true essence. We start to activate through our passion. Again, one of the key elements here is if you find yourself in a funk or find yourself, in a dysfunctional situation with the relationship of a colleague or your spouse or whatever, find the antidote of passion. Find your love, find your sense of being, and go for a hike, play tennis, go surfing, pick up an instrument, go work in the garden, find your composure and realize that was just a situation that needed to be exposed so you could become aware. And again, acknowledge, through acknowledgement, these things will disappear. They just want to be acknowledged. You want to be acknowledged. I want to be acknowledged. This is how we gain a sense of self, is through acknowledgement from our peers, through people that love us. Through my eyes, I divine their essence by looking into their eyes, and with validation. And this is how we grow. This is how we exchange positive energy. And so this compression is going to force these issues out, literally force them out. And so it is a time of trial and tribulation, but there is resolve if you understand the matrix, if you understand the platform, this new negotiating platform of finding your passion, your heart center, and finding that to be your retreat, or that's actually the essence of your being. And you'll find that these boundaries and these your sense of self and your power will be unstoppable. Chloe.
There's so many topics in that. I love that. I guess first I want to acknowledge your experience with time, because I love the experience of the time dissolving. And I really just absolutely, I just really was so happy and elated when I finally registered that time's an illusion. And, if there's anybody listening that's like, what is she talking about? Well, if we think about it very practically, we literally change the time when we want, right? We say, okay, today is the imaginary day that says the clock goes back or the clock goes forward, or, right? So we manipulate time all the time. And it's a structure, it's a construct to help us navigate in a certain limited way that really doesn't serve anymore, especially as we're moving out of the need to do and act in order to create, right? So as we're learning that we simply create by being, it's not a tool that is necessary anymore in that way. And obviously it's revealing to people that it is dissolving, and you can stretch it, and you can shrink it, and you can make it disappear, and you can add more, and it's whatever it is you want, because there is no time. And when you're speaking about it also being a space where it's activating our dark night of the soul, well, something I wanted to kind of look at is when we're allowing enough space for expansion and revealment of these issues, and an allowance of people's ways, or the ways that things are, or maybe situations in society or whatnot. When there is an allowance for that expansion, and there is a surrender to the place that change is inevitable, right? So, and when I'm saying that, I guess I'm talking about in my experience, it's been pretty easy to hold certain situations in a concrete structure that proliferates them into my future and begets the same habitual pattern and manifestation. And it also locks my perspective of that person or that situation in so that it continues to be my experience. If I step out of that rigid structure and perspective, I free up the space where there is an allowance for my reality to shift in all of those situations and become more aligned with what I prefer, if I'm ready for that. And it takes no time at all to do that if I am able to step back and get out of my own way. The universe is happy to synchronize instantly when you allow enough space or frequential shift for that to happen. It's not about time. It's just about an allowance and becoming malleable enough that you can resonate in a new frequency where that already exists. So whether we know it or not, we're time travelers. We do it constantly. We do it in dream time. If you've ever done a past life regression, which I don't even like calling it past life regression, it's continual lives because they're all happening. All of these realities are happening. You're just tuning in that now moment and experiencing that timeline, and you can manipulate it in any way you want. So we can dissolve our dark night of the souls. We can dissolve all of these timelines that don't serve us. We can dissolve our day as we experience maybe an 8-hour workday, and it's exhausting. You can dissolve that to where it goes by in what you perceived as a split second. And I really love the revealment that time is an archaic tool for in a lot of ways at this point for a lot of people. And when you dissolve the time, it really bends your mind enough to register how you can dissolve so many situations and so many beliefs and habits and, you know, maybe the way you've locked in how it is with a certain person or that relationship dynamic or whatnot. It just really opens up an allowance for anything to be possible in instant. It's just about letting the frequency shift to that space and detaching enough for the universe to do its part.
You know, there's some excellent points there. 0 point of reality is non-time. When you're not caught up in timelines, which create time, you know, these timelines are all these situations you've invested in that are outside of who you are, that are creating these timelines of illusion, this 3D holographic illusory reality that we find ourselves in that create time. And these are all unresolved issues. So they're unresolved tendencies, unresolved unconscious reactions to life. We're entangled in these timelines. And again, a lot of them are, you know, these programmed lineage that were passed down. We've taken a body to actually recreate and to experience these unresolved issues. As Chloe's pointing out, is a resolution. It's like tuning in. You're tuning into a frequency, like on a radio. Which channel do you want to play? You know, you want to play a past life. You want to play a pain and suffering. You want to play a time that you're still harboring resentment. That will be your manifestation. If you believe it to be true, it will be true. If you believe that you're in poverty, you will be in poverty. If you believe in pain and suffering, you will be in pain and suffering. And these are all timelines that you're tuned into like a radio dial. It's a frequency which are keeping us subjugated because we're still involved in this belief. This is how the deep state and the cabal keep us in control. because we believe that it's real. These false flags are real, that their subjugation is real, that this Puritan ethics are still alive and well in this country because we believe in these false timelines. So as we start to understand the 0 point of reality, which is non-time, is because it's coming from our passion. Mm-hmm. I'm sure all of you have experienced moments of your passion and your joy and your elation and your bliss where did time go? It was because you weren't involved in these timelines. Because you found an element of your core being that you can communicate and have a relationship with that's true to yourself, true to your being. Whatever it is, again, it can, through meditation, through yoga, through proper diet, these help to facilitate these states of being. But then engaging in that which gives you joy. I mean, why not? Why would you want to engage in something that doesn't give you joy? Why would you go there? Why would you hang out with somebody that's constantly berating you? Why would you engage in a job that is constantly belittling you and keeping you in subjugation? Why would you do all these things? Because there's a false belief. It's still holding on to you. You're still holding on to these timelines. And there's tens of thousands of these timelines throughout this planet. But as we, the people, start to understand that these no longer work for me, the illusion will dissolve into a singularity, to where we all can become synchronistic in a belief that we are the people and we can divine a new future. We can create prosperity. We can literally find ourselves in a utopia if we just get on board. It's a commitment. It is a trust to yourself in this process that you can then engage and share with humanity. It's up to you. You have to choose wisely.
Right. And I don't think it's necessary anymore for every single issue or belief that you have been holding to be looked at for deep emotional, energetic clearing. A lot are core beliefs for sure. And there's in-depth reasoning for that. I often have clients who come forward requesting understanding or revealment around a certain topic. And the guides will say to them, we're not at this time going to reveal it the way you're asking because you need to find this for yourself. You need to learn how to reach into your being and pull it out because it's not the same if we tell you. It's for you to really retrieve out of your being and expose. And then we're here to help you with that. And I really love that because it is important. It's very important for us to learn how to anchor the changes in our humanity and pull them out of our soul through our human, because there's a lot of energetic desires and manifestation energies that seem to take a very long time to anchor into our human 3D, 4D reality. And in my experience, that is because those desires and manifestations and potential creation energy don't have access to the limited allowance that human it has space in their physical vessel for their soul. So there's a lot of energetic work that can be done, but if we haven't given our human body, our cells, our DNA enough space that our soul has infused into our being, it doesn't have anywhere to ground. And that's something that I really wanted also to bring up, because I think that is a reason people tend to hold on to a concept of time. It takes a long time for that to happen. Simply because they're experiencing a length of time where it hasn't come about. Well, just because you're experiencing a length of time doesn't mean time is the reason. It's just a byproduct. Though, how much have you as a human, integrated your soul. And that is also different, in my opinion, from going and doing past life energetic clearings and clearing your etheric space and your energetic space, as opposed to then ensuring that that has anchored into your human. There's more steps than just clearing, the past lives and the soul body and the etheric space. Then you have to integrate it into your being so that you're living a human, soul-infused human, or a human-infused soul, however you want to say it. And I find that that's something that confuses people, especially when they've done a prolific amount of work on self-healing. Why hasn't it yet anchored into my perceived reality? Well, it's our responsibility to allow the etheric energetic changes to access the material 3D, 4D reality. And integrating your soul into your human is very important to register. And something else I wanted to kind of note with that is the need to balance all of our aspects. And so something that might give an example of this is, my easiest way to say it is, if we've met any spiritual, metaphysical person who associates their identity more with maybe one aspect, maybe a galactic aspect or a past life or something, and that seems to be a dominant projection of their being to society and to themselves. And that's valid. That aspect is certainly a makeup of their soul essence, though there are hundreds, some there are thousands of soul aspects that are equally as valid. And in this life, moving into 5D and above, it's all about finding that synchronistic balance as a human. So if we're giving more credit, or value to one aspect, we're turning our back on many others that are waiting to integrate into our human and transmute. And that type of integration is what opens us up, in my perspective, to allowing all of the energetic shifts to reveal themselves in our human reality.
The great balancing act. This is something that we're all, I mean, we spend our lives balancing our pain and suffering. Balancing our finances, balancing our emotions. We're always trying to find the equilibrium in our chaos. Again,
right.
It's something that we have to just come to terms with, understanding that, again, we are born with a protocol of clearing out this old residue of karmic dysfunction. We've built up certain karmic dysfunction which has plagued our DNA. It's actually a virus. These timelines are keeping our DNA from opening up and expanding. It's like a monkey wrench in the gears. So finding the opportunity here, it's the conscious awareness. I find that the tool that I pull out of my tool belt, my conscious tool belt, is sublimation. It's a concisive awareness that, by allowing yourself not to dwell on this pain and suffering, because it can become, as I said, this balancing act of trying to balance your pain and suffering can be consuming by dwelling on it. You cannot change what happened, but you can sublimate the experience by holding on to a greater essence of who you are and allowing this experience to become empathy and compassion. It gives us a sense of self and an awareness and an understanding of compassion for humanity. Because we've moved through it. We understand the pain and suffering. We don't have to dwell on the pain and suffering. It's right. Always an opportunity. It's an opportunity in life. The greatest opportunity in life is for us to understand the source of this pain and suffering, and to surrender it with forgiveness. As horrific as it may be, it can be resolved through compassion and understanding. It's just a matter of conscious awareness and understanding this no longer serves me. Again, why would you go there? When you have this beautiful opportunity to expand into your higher sense of passion. I'd much rather be out there in my garden or feeding the chickens than locked in traffic and being yelled at. You can choose. We are creator beings, as Keith often mentions. We are creator beings, and we can manifest our reality. We have that power. We have so much potential and power in our choice. We can create magic. We can bend teaspoons or walk on water or walk through walls. We have this potential. It's just out of our purview. It's out of our belief structure. Again, what you believe is going to conjure your reality. And unfortunately, for most of us, we're tying up in these false timelines. Pain and suffering, subjugation, judgment, despair. By acknowledging these, 99.9 of them will disappear. It's that 1% that, the 0.01% that Chloe's mentioning that may have to be investigated a little more thoroughly. But I think the trick here is not to get caught up, to acknowledge and be aware of it. And again, it will sublimate. It will sublimate. It will drop away. It will vaporize.
I was reading about one of the indigenous daily rituals of surrendering guilt, burdens, and suffering to higher power as a daily act. And I really like that because it reminds me of how what you're saying is that if we just continue to surrender it and let the universe take care with that, the ones that we do need to look at will be revealed in a way where we'll register, okay, this is something I need to care on. And as you're talking about these false timelines, and they're often quite heavy to endure and experience, and in that space, I think it can be trying and tricky to figure out how to tackle it or change it or whatnot, which is why it's so important at that moment to integrate your passion and your joy, like Viking's saying, and that spontaneous action we were talking about the last show. Because even if it seems silly, I think the more silly the better, but you can be in that space of super burdened, heavy energy, like in your car in traffic. And you can't do anything in that moment to get out of the traffic necessarily. You are where you are. So why not just have a sporadic giggle fest or yell out in your car to have an energetic disruption of that repetition. And there you just changed that frequency. So we might be bombarded by these heavy timelines and situations and frequencies and the powers that be might be imposing this onto it. And it seems grander than now, so how do we deal with it? Deal with it that way. Have some funky, fun little moment, no matter how random it is, which infuses, spontaneous action for the sake of adventurous experience and joy. And that'll fracture that false reality instantly. I mean, it's like approaching it from a total different vantage point. And then it creates these new doorways that we didn't know were there. And it can be that simple. It's meant to be joy and fun. So find anything random that gives you that moment of joy and fun. And then you fractured that heavier reality. And you keep doing it and you keep doing it. And more joy and fun will come forth.
You could also, exactly. And these new arenas of inspiration will be available to you. I also like to express an analogy where, again, we're going back to the radio. We're dialing in our passion. We're dialing in our core essence. We're dialing in what gives us joy. And put a little, push the button and lock that in. Lock that in as who you are. This is what gives me joy. Push it and make a lock, so it's like going to your car and you can, push the buttons of all these stations that you've dialed in. Well, have one that brings in your passion, that brings in that true sense of joy. Now, it may wander off into these false timelines, but at least you have a focus. As it wanders off, realize, well, these are still tendencies, and these are still belief structures, and these are still elements I'm still holding on to. Invite them. Unfortunately, I'm ahead of the game. I'm 5 aspects of Scorpio. So I relish transition. I relish change. I seek the road less traveled. This is my being. And I'm not afraid of change. In fact, I welcome change. That's why I love traveling so much around the world. It brings in a fresh ambiance of experience that completely changes my life forever. The experiences that changes my life forever is what I seek. So as a warrior, the code here is courage to invite these elements into your life. Pick up the carpet that you swept all your dark night of the soul under, and invite the exposure as an opportunity to do some spring cleaning. Unpack the skeletons out of your closet willingly with courage, because this is going to free your essence, and you'll be able to lock in on that passion station, and you'll never leave it. It'll be a source of protocol. So now when you're in your passion, you have the ability now to move forward, and this is where you start to get your quantum soul essence, your quantum light language. These light codes start to activate in your DNA, because you've swept away all these viruses. They're gone. You're starting to purify your DNA channel. The frequencies of your DNA will start to accelerate. They'll start to amplify and unlock. They will unlock your expressions through intuition, through aspiration, through creativity, through love and joy. This will become where you're focusing. This will become your lens, the lens on how you view life. And then your foundation is forgiveness, non-judgment, compassion, surrender. This is Christ consciousness. Christ consciousness is seeing that everybody is suffering, so why do you judge them? You have love and compassion, forgiveness. You're just surrendering the elements of this behavior, but you're not engaging. See, you're engaging in who you are. You are forgiveness. You are compassion. You are non-judgment. It becomes an essence. You can't go out there and create it. You can share it from your being, from your higher sense of self, from your true sense of self. And as we all start to do this, these timelines will collapse. And we will join in this beautiful harmonics where we can manifest anything our soul heart desires. It's a magical time. Mm-hmm. Again, it's the magic train. It's got to jump on here, man. And we're all going to be doing this together in the singularity. All the galactic beings are in this singularity. They're all in this harmonics. They're not in a discord of these holographic timelines of illusion. They're in the harmonics. And this as a race is our destiny. This is what we're trying to manifest. We, the people, can do it. Starts with you. You have to make that commitment. Hold on to that vision. Strike a chord in your passion, and then start manifesting your true essence. I know this may be out there, but this is what I believe. I truly believe this. I truly see it. I understand it.
I don't think it's out there.
I understand it. Yeah.
I think that's our birthright. I think maybe some people have gotten so far from that as being something that is imperceptible and just this random dream that would never anchor into their reality. But I think that's our true human nature, And
Conrad,
when you're talking about,
Sorry.
It's okay. I just wanted to say when you were talking about the courage, my brain had a moment where I morphed the Cowardly Lion and Tigger together, and I'm just like hearing courage, and then Tigger on his tail, like, like he's pure joy springing about. So you're cracking me up in that moment because it's just pure joy coming through with courage.
You know how to spell Tigger?
How?
T-I-double-G-R. It's Tigger. No, it's true. That's how he spells it. T-I-double-G-R. I want to bring Conrad in and see if he has the insight on this whole topic we've been talking about, timelines and anger and finding composure, because you definitely have found your sense of self. Conrad with his mute button. Are you there, sir? Well, he might have stepped away. So anyway, yeah. So anyway, Keith, how about you? Would you like to step in, please, and voice your opinion?
Well, you've covered so many areas. We are being activated.
You talk a little louder, Keith?
Yeah, I've got a new setup here. Is that better?
Yeah, that's better.
I've got a new setup. I'm not using a headset anymore. I'm using a mic. Any rate, you've touched on so many areas. I'd like to go back to the activations. We are coming into greater power in our beings, and so we need to, I think, really be disciplined with how we express that. I find with myself there's a tendency to kind of let it to be kind of spread it around too much. I've got so many opportunities and so much energy, and I need to remind myself to focus it. And then again, of course, with these activations, then these deeper emotions come up. I've noticed with myself that at times I'll start feeling a lot of sadness. And when I take a look at that, I can see where I'm manifesting it in this lifetime, but I also see that it has these threads that go back to times when I have had very difficult lifetimes, and so I'm kind of remanifesting them in this lifetime. With these greater energies coming in, though, then I have the opportunity to really explode that picture and give some healing to that aspect of myself. And I love how you're talking about the different aspects of ourselves and balancing them, because it is, I think, at this time now more crucial than ever. It's like we're in the crucible. We've got so much going on. I mean, just the other day, all of a sudden I'm playing guitar better. I'm like, what? I didn't really do anything different except that I had the intention of steadily improving. And then we kind of reached these thresholds, where a door opens. And I feel that's what's happening for us now.
I love those moments.
Yeah.
When you're like, oh, I up-leveled. Like, I don't know how long it's been, but now I'm noticing.
It's this new power. Great. It's like a new power. And, we're experiencing, I think we all are, and we have to pay attention to that and, be careful with how we, utilize that energy and realize it's not coming from our ego. It's coming from our development at our, fundamental soul level. I mean, I don't even know how to say it. But it's not coming from the ego mind level. It's coming from our real intention of doing the spiritual work that we're here to do.
But what do you mean be careful with it?
Well, maybe I'm just talking to myself. Like I said, I have a tendency, I'm an Aries, and I when I feel this kind of fiery energy, this kind of powerful energy, I realize I have to be disciplined in where I focus it, because I can apply it to any direction I want to.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a tendency to kind of burn it up a little bit instead of putting it in perhaps a more balanced way.
Right. Especially because those revelations are going to be coming in fast and furious now. We're going to be like, oh, up level, oh, up level, oh, up level.
Yeah, that's right. That's part of my point, is that this is, I believe, is happening for all of us in varying degrees, depending on just our path and how much we've chosen to have a spiritual discipline.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it seems that the spiritual discipline is just a conscious effort to stay on course. Stay on your course of action. We're all coming to our true sense of being and our true expressions in life. And as you point out, Keith, as you start to up level, as you start to surrender, you will up level, because again, that virus is removed out of your DNA chain. You have a new activation. And so what's really interesting here is again, I mentioned this so many times before, best not to try to figure out your up level. Let it just manifest in a very magical way. Let it unfold and blossom into a new sense of reality. Because if you're trying to figure it out, you're still in the 3D timeline. You're still trying to figure it out with your mind, which only negotiates its experience up until now. And you try to figure it out up until now, and you get stuck in these false timelines. You'll know when time slips away that you're getting close. When time starts to collapse, you're getting close. And as it happens, then these insights and inspirations and these epiphanies will guide you. You're allowing these new expressions to manifest. Letting go of these old interpretations of life, letting go of these old interpretations of who you are, will unfold and give credence to a new understanding, which comes from your higher self. These epiphanies are coming from your higher sense of being, your harmonics. And this is the new quantum light language that we're speaking of. These codexes will start to unfold and manifest as visions, as epiphanies, inspiration, creativity, in your skill sets, skill craft, and skill art. You'll find new boundless opportunities that will just come to you. Just have to trust and establish that communication by validating these new expressions. They're coming, as I said, they're coming to you every day. You've got to pick up the phone. And once you start to acknowledge that connection, then the connectivity will give you an ultimate, unlimited, infinite source of reality beyond your perception. Best to prepare, and the way we prepare is to eliminate these elements in our life, these false timelines that are no longer serving us. And as we let go of these new arenas will just manifest in a magical way. They'll be your guide. You will be your guide. Because your harmonics will become extremely present and clear. And time will dissolve as you start manifesting from your passion, and this true understanding and this belief structure will then take hold, and you will be on course of action.
I wanted to bring up the non-interference clause in free will, and how you're talking about how these revelations will be exposed in your next way, and the next, the hints, and here's the next step, here's the next step, here's the next step. And I think that a lot of people wish that they had the next step more clearly revealed to them. And something that I received a while ago, which I use a lot and I really love it, is asking for physical validation. And so I'm going to kind of jump back and forth here with that. So the free will clause, we are a free will universe, right? We are ultimately responsible for our entire experience. And there is a non-interference clause in that, in which the galactics, the multidimensional beings, the angels, the guides, what have you, cannot interfere. You must ask for help. You must ask for help over and over and over and over and over, and specifically. And I think we forget that a lot. I think that's the initial intention of prayer, is people step away from prayer because maybe they're not religious, but really it's just about asking for help. And so if you're wanting a boost in how you're progressing, or maybe, a crutch or whatever it is, like, hey, I need some support, ask for physical validation, which basically just means that whoever you ask, maybe you specify it to your higher self or the angels or the guides, you say, hey, bring me some physical validation, and they will give you proof for, it may be something really minor that another person might not notice, but it will be specific to you. It'll be personalized and individualized to you, and you will notice it, and you'll be very clear that was for you. And it will show up in the 3D, 4D world to be like, hey, we heard you, you're doing great, here you go. And the more you're open to those types of miracles, the more fun they will bring it. So, if maybe you're pretty conservative, they might have your favorite flower in the middle of the street, and you'll be like, oh, that's my favorite flower, maybe that's a message for me. If you're really open to miracles, it can be something extremely radical. My example of this is I was on a trip in Seattle, and it was my birthday, okay? And I'm walking down the street, and I pass a parked car that's got dirty windows, and somebody has used their finger to write something in the dirt, on the window. And it said, "Hi, Chloe!" exclamation, exclamation, exclamation. And I don't know whose car that was, and I didn't live in Seattle. And it was the most wonderful thing. I just started cracking up. I'm like, hey guys, that was awesome. Happy birthday to me. And I feel, because I'm open enough to those fun little miracles, that I'm like, yeah, I'll receive that. And they gave me a laugh. So I just wanted to point on that, because we have free will. So we have to ask for it. We have to bring it forth. We have to create that reality. And they're happy to help you, and they will give you those little messages that you're desiring, but just ask for it.
Yes, it's very true. Without visualization, there will be no manifestation. This is one of the prime elements of alchemistry. Without visualization, there will be no manifestation. When I was buying a house, or looking to buy a house, I had a list of 10 items. I wanted Old Victorian. I wanted some property. I wanted a pure source of water. I wanted redwood trees. I wanted to have garden space, place for animals. I wanted to have tree frogs, which I really love tree frogs. I want, all these things. Every single one was clicked off, and I found my house for an absolutely amazing price. But I visualized it. And its reality, and it manifested, so it does work. You can't break out of your mold without visualization, seeing yourself in a higher state, validating your passion, asking for guidance. I light candles every day. With, as you say, a prayer can be an intention or a tool of intent that gives continuity to your life. It's that sacred time where you're inviting in your higher spirit guides, you're acknowledging it's like a reflective pool. You looking at you. It's a reflective pool. So not only does it give you continuity, but it gives your life continuity, and it gives a continuity and a connectivity to your higher source awareness. Higher source awareness, which is your harmonics. It's the frequency that you resonate on a galactic level. We are all, evolving into this state, but you have this preview of who you are if you just start tying into it. Again, as Chloe had pointed out, invite it into your life consciously, verbally, with an altar, or just lighting a candle, or just, doing some stretching. Do something every day at the same time that gives continuity. And you will find a force of action that's unstoppable. There are temples in India that have done sunrise and sunset ceremonies for 1,000 years every day. And this is what gives the strength of that belief structure, is that it has been validated and nurtured and visualized through prayer and meditation, and then manifests because it's beyond your perception. You allow it to be beyond your perception. Don't try to figure it out. As I said again, that's the monkey wrench in the gear. Don't try to figure it out. Prepare yourself by purifying your true intents.
Mm-hmm. Purifying. Yeah. And, you're talking about the sunset, the sunrise and the sunset, and those really positive rituals that people implement that are so healthy for us. One thing I was listening to earlier, and reminds me of absorbing the God vitamins. And I was listening to a channeling that was talking about, our big fear of the sun and the rays and all of that at this point, but how important it is to still absorb those vitamins that the sun feeds us. And that makes me think about going back to, well, how do we integrate these works that we're doing on this spiritual higher plane into our physical reality? Well, that's one great way, is before the heat of the day, at the times, especially at the times when you can look straight into the sun at sunrise and sunset, allow your cells to take in those God particles. In this channeling, it was Archangel Michael. He was talking about if you have accessed your adamantium particles of creator light in your being, and as you're up leveling, you're constantly accessing those, mostly starting in your perineum and then moving through chakras and in your crown. Once you're accessing them, when you're absorbing these full spectrum metatronic light particles, is what they're called, from the sun, they'll synthesize into your cells and help activate this light energy, this higher frequency, this multidimensionality in your human. So it's a great way to synthesize it into your body. And I really liked that because it's super easy, I think, for people to not get sun, on top of being fearful of sunburn and all of that and covering our skin. Maybe it's cold out or the clouds are out or whatnot. So we really have to effort to absorb that. But it's a huge component, I think, of our daily happiness factor, much beyond just vitamin D absorption. So I really like the idea of those rituals you're talking about.
Well, this is very true. The sun has changed frequency. It's changed its color. If you kind of glance up at it really quickly, you'll notice it's more white. It's not as yellow as it was. So those burning rays really are not as strong as they were. And it's very true, Chloe. We absorb the essence of the sun, which is an activation portal. By being in the sun, you will be activated. Your DNA will be triggered. It's very important to spend half hour or just walking I walk barefoot too as well. I'll walk, like before the show, I took it half an hour and I walk barefoot through my farm in the sun. Cause it grounds me to the planet and it gives me a solar activation. Mm-hmm. And by acknowledging this, it is. I mean, this is, again, you just have to acknowledge that this is a practice. And this does work. Again, we live in a society that it has to be proven. Well, that's the mind, it's fear. And that's the mind's conditioning and the mind wanting to control life. Throw all that away and find a belief structure that really resonates and reflects and manifests and validates who you are. And again, as Chloe was pointing out, subtle signs in the beginning, subtle signs will come to you. You'll know who's calling. You think about somebody, they just thought about you. You see triple digits on the clock. These are all telltale signs that you are activating. That you're activating, again, this quantum light language, which is it's referred to as telepathy, but I think it's a very, very crude word for it. It's more of a higher awareness that you are toning yourself to, and it's like anything else. We start to learn to play an instrument. We're learning to play. The next couple of years, we'll be playing that instrument. We will be in non-time. We will be functioning from our passion. We will be manifesting our greatest desires and joy and sharing this with humanity in this new prosperity, abundance, and magical time. This is a magical time. We've got to, again, allow this process to occur. We've got a couple minutes here.
Well, I wanted to acknowledge Earth again, as Keith brought up last show, and especially, with the full moon right now, it's a great time to put your crystals out in the full moon. They absolutely love it. It cleanses them. It makes them so happy. And, as much as we can absorb solar, we can absorb lunar. If you have a clear moon tonight, I think Lady Moonbeam really likes when you get under her and absorb her. Though something that I was brought awareness to, as it's come up many times over the years in healings, but the elementals of the land and the devas get extremely frustrated with humans, with the lack of consciousness and acknowledgement to them and where they live in the different areas of the land. And it came up in the regard to this person's house. They're having weird things happen. So I'm looking at the situation, and all of the devas and the elementals showed up very frustrated because that community was thrown up without consciousness and acknowledgement of what they wanted, of course, because most humans don't tune in. So it's really important to connect with the elementals and the devas of the land of where you're at, because they have extremely specific preferences, and they will help those plots thrive as much as they will keep them from thriving if they're upset. So I just really want to put that out there for people to maybe start to tune in a little bit to all of the other beings that are coexisting on this earth that might not be as visible as us, but they're extremely important.
Yeah, I was, I'm not sure who raised who, but in the raising of my daughter, we've often built fairy houses outside, fairy houses and brought offerings, and it definitely works. You're validating their existence. They will validate you. We're at the top of the hour. Chloe Hudson, thank you. World Peace Projects, Keith AZ, thank you. Conrad, Fly on the Wall, thank you. And JP, as always, we are boots on the ground. We are hand in hand. No one gets left behind. Hold true, hold fast. Thank you very much. This is the Viking.
Thanks, guys. You have a great day.
You're listening to Wolf Spirit Radio.